Tonight, CNN's Anderson Cooper on assignment for 60 Minutes.
President Obama wants to begin withdrawing American forces from Afghanistan next summer, but his ability to do that will largely depend on how quickly Afghan security forces can be trained to take over the fight. While the Afghan army has made some strides in recent years, the National Police Force has developed a reputation for drug abuse, illiteracy, and desertion. Earlier this month, the New York Times reported that 19 Afghan police officers from southwest of Kabul defected to the Taliban en masse, taking their guns with them and burning down their own station house. On paper, the Afghan police are supposed to be about 120,000 strong, but no one knows for sure the actual number of policemen on duty, nor how many of them are good cops and how many are bad. What is certain is that the U.S. has spent 9 years and more than $7 billion building and training the Afghan police force. We wanted to find out what's become of that investment. We began with the 3-star American general now in charge of their training.
The story will continue in a moment.
The police have to succeed.
If the Afghan police fail, we fail.
We do.
Lieutenant General William Caldwell began overseeing training of the Afghan security forces last November. He's the highest-ranking officer ever assigned to the mission, a sign of how important it is and how badly it's been going.
The sooner we can develop an effective police force, the sooner U.S. forces will be able to have less of an active combat role.
If we had a better trained Afghan police at this point, that would save American lives.
There's no question that'd be true.
When General Caldwell took over, he found more than half the Afghan police had not received any formal training whatsoever. Most of them couldn't even read or write. Some estimates say 90% of the police force is illiterate.
I would say at least 80% is illiterate.
We visited the National Police Academy in Kabul and were shown well-drilled officer candidates marching in unison. But this video tells a different story. It was shot by an American instructor in 2008 at a basic training course in southern Afghanistan. It shows that while Afghans may be known as fierce fighters, teaching them to become professional police officers or even do basic exercises is a massive challenge. Not only are most of the police illiterate, it turns out many of them also have a drug problem. I saw one study that said 10 to 20% use smoke, hash, or other forms of drugs.
And that's probably an accurate statistic, too, based on what we've seen.
This video, taken by a member of the 82nd Airborne, shows an Afghan policeman smoking marijuana before going on patrol. Evidently not an uncommon ritual. You must have known you were taking on a huge challenge when you got this assignment. Were you surprised, though, at what you found with the police?
That's a great question. I felt very comfortable coming in and working with the Army piece. I knew the police portion would be a challenge. Fortunately,
you're being diplomatic.
Yeah, I've got a great team that's working with me that's really helped me work through these challenges of the police.
One of Caldwell's biggest challenges is he still doesn't have enough manpower for the mission. 9 nations have sent 500 police trainers, but hundreds more are still needed. These Italian police officers are teaching marksmanship and crowd control. As of now, most Afghan police recruits only get 6 weeks of training.
See? Look at, let me show you.
In past years, many Afghan police received no follow-up training in the field. The goal today is for American and international forces to regularly supervise them.
Why does that guy have your ID? You need to keep it with you.
These National Guard troops from the Boston area are with the 101st Field Artillery Regiment. They're spending their year-long tour mentoring Afghan police north of Kabul.
Pretty much, if he opened up on all of us right now, he might not hit anybody.
To try and keep the Afghans on target and turn them into a professionalized force that can win the support of the country's rural population, the Americans spend up to 4 days in a row living and working with them, keeping a constant lookout for corruption.
Well, anytime that you see myself or any of my guys and there's any issues, please stop us and we'll do our best to help with the police.
The Army's there to protect the nation. The police are there to protect the people.
How important are the police to the counterinsurgency effort for the U.S.?
Perhaps one of the most critical pieces.
Most critical?
Yeah, I would say so.
More than the Afghan National Army even?
Even more so than the Army. And the reason why is because the police are the face of the Afghan government.
The police are exactly what General Caldwell says they are. They are the face of the government. If the government is corrupt, the police are inevitably corrupt, and that is how the population sees them.
In 2009, Peter Galbraith was the United Nations #2 man in Afghanistan. Part of your portfolio when you were with the UN in Afghanistan was the police.
Yes.
Have you had interactions with the police?
Well, I had one particular incident with the police, actually just near the American embassy. As I passed a roundabout, my bodyguard had to pay off the police in order for us to proceed.
So wait, you got hit up by the Afghan National Police in Kabul?
Hit up by the Afghan National Police, a stone's throw from the American embassy for a bribe.
What does it tell you that the Afghan National Police would try to hit you up for money?
If they would do that for someone in my position, just imagine what it was for ordinary Afghans.
Galbraith was fired by the UN after protesting the fraud associated with Afghanistan's presidential elections. He says the police are the most corrupt institution in the country.
Who are the police? They are illiterate villagers, many of them users of drugs, who come in. They have a 6-week training course. Now, how can you teach somebody to read and write, to be a policeman, to defend themselves in 6 weeks? It just isn't possible. So what emerges is not a policeman, but someone who is marginally more effective at extorting money from his fellow citizens.
Do you believe the police are making the insurgency worse?
Without a doubt.
They certainly made it worse in a place called Marja. When U.S. Marines went on the offensive there last spring, they weren't just trying to root out the Taliban. They were also there to help replace corrupt Afghan police who'd been harassing and extorting local residents.
When somebody says there's corruption in the police force, my answer is, okay, first of all, we haven't formally trained them, and then we didn't pay them right. In other words, the amount of money they were getting paid each month was insufficient for them to provide for themselves to live with a family in Afghanistan. So we, in fact, had set the conditions that made that policeman have to look for other ways to make money.
I remember being in Kabul in 2002, going out with special forces. Everyone then said, look, this is a key element. This is crucial to helping Afghanistan stand up for itself. Did people just forget about the police?
There just hasn't been the focus on the police.
Before General Caldwell arrived, much of the actual police training was overseen by civilian contractors working for the U.S. State Department. But according to this government audit, there was no measurement of contractor performance, nor was any specific type of training required. Nevertheless, of the $7 billion the U.S. has spent on the police, more than $1 billion went to pay those contractors. Has the money that's been spent training the Afghan police over the last 8 years, has that been wasted?
What I would tell you, it has not gotten us to where we need to be today.
Since taking command, General Caldwell has reorganized the entire training program. He's replaced nearly 400 private contractors who he says lacked initiative and flexibility, and saved $150 million in the process. This video was given to us by NATO.
When I have the opportunity to watch what you just did, it gives me real hope for what your country's going to do one day.
There's now a plan to teach tens of thousands of Afghan police how to read at a basic level. Drug testing is mandatory, and to combat corruption, police wages have been doubled. To make sure Afghan officers actually get paid, American military teams monitor their police bureaucracy.
Hundreds of people still here in Kabul not getting paid, so someone needs to let him know that.
Police working in volatile areas are now paid $240 a month, about 3 times what most Afghans make, but not a lot of money for what may be the most dangerous job in the country. Isolated at checkpoints and traveling in unarmored vehicles, the police are 3 times more likely to be killed in battle than Afghan army soldiers. And every month, thousands just up and quit. We found U.S. soldiers handing out leaflets trying to recruit replacements. Caldwell wants to increase the police force by 15,000 over the next year. But to do that, 50,000 new recruits will have to be found and trained.
Have a good day. Have him right here.
It'll then be up to American troops in the field.
Any ones that drive this way, past, you gotta slow them down, okay?
To make sure they remain on the job and not on the take. Former UN Deputy Envoy to Afghanistan Peter Galbraith believes even American forces' best efforts will have a limited effect.
General Caldwell is now not just focused on training, but also on mentoring Afghan police in the field. Does that make a difference?
For the time that there are U.S. troops with the police, yes. Probably when there are American troops there, the police are not openly extorting bribes at checkpoints. But the American troops are not there 24/7.
What kind of a task does General Caldwell have ahead of him in terms of trying to reform the police, rebuild, create them?
The police are incapable of being reformed.
Incapable?
It cannot be done.
You mean it's just going to take a long time?
Well, it cannot be done within a time horizon that you or I or the American people would find acceptable. We're talking about something that will take 100 years, generations.
Wait, you think it would take 100 years to really equip, train, create an Afghan National Police force?
Well, you can equip them, you can provide some training, but you can't make them honest, you can't make them literate, you can't make them committed to the notions of policing that we have in the West.
General Caldwell told us building the police force will take several years, but says they are currently ahead of their recruiting goals. He sees recent improved public opinion polls about police performance as proof they're marching in the right direction. Rating their progress will be a crucial part of a comprehensive White House review of the war in Afghanistan scheduled for next month.
We have some enormous challenges still ahead of us, but I feel very optimistic about where we're going with the future now. And I feel like we've put it on the right path. We've got the resources, we've got the leadership of our country behind us, and we can make a change here.
But the clock is ticking.
It is.